So recently I have felt pretty unmotivated to play Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't know if I'm the only one. It's odd because I'm very passionate about Yu-Gi-Oh! I love Yu-Gi-Oh! When I love it like so much. I mean, I buy merch, I start a freaking YouTube channel and stuff. At the moment, I feel like I have more to criticize than usually. So that's why I make a video about it. I mean, at the end of the day, the YouTube channel is also some sort of diary for me sometimes. When I look back at the videos, I can tell, oh, this is where I really like the game and love doing profiles. And this is maybe where I didn't upload for a week and I didn't feel as motivated. I definitely want to talk about Master Duel and TCG in this video. What I feel about both and what are the sort of the problems with both. And I want to start with Master Duel because we did a few surveys on the channel in the community tab asking you, what you think about the game now that it's out for 2 months approximately. Do you think it's good, mediocre or bad? And only 27% of people answered with good, which I think is a very poor result for a game 2 months after its release. And I have a couple of reasons listed here, maybe not even a couple, but actually a few, as to why I think that could be the case. The first one being the ban list. Now, I'm not mad that there hasn't been a new ban list since the game has released. 2 months, that's a reasonable amount of time, and probably next week we're gonna get a new ban list anyway, which is hopefully gonna clear up all the mess that is currently in the format. But because it is a best of one format, I think that they could have used the chance right in the beginning when they released the game to push for a completely different ban list than anything we've ever seen before. They imported 10,000 cards at once in the game, and they could have definitely used this opportunity to say, alright, we don't have to push a certain product at the moment, therefore we can allow a more healthy format with the release of Master Duel where we don't have to deal with cards like VFT, Herald of Ultimateness, or Rongominiad that scare off new players immediately. I feel like if you're a new player, you come into the game, you want to, try out your Light Swan deck or Six Samurai deck that you have played 7-8 years ago and have a couple of nice games, you will just feel unmotivated afterwards. Sitting there 20 minutes waiting for your opponent to finish their turn, which to some regard, that has always been Yu-Gi-Oh! But in Master Duel, it's kind of just unpleasant experience, especially because it's best of one. So if you go second versus any of those decks, you just instantly lose. The other one being that there's no best of 3 format. I know that some of you argue, best of 3, it's not necessary. Also, it splits the community in a sense, right? If we don't have best of 3 format, everyone is unified under this best of one, and that's just the standard format and everything. I think that's a misconception. I feel like Konami, also from their perspective, they wouldn't lose any players by adding best of 3 to their game. It is just, I don't know why they don't do it. I really am confused about why they don't add this option. Everyone that I'm talking to at my locals say, well, it's a best of one format. There's like no skill at all. Like, I'm used to playing TCG format. I'm used to playing Yu-Gi-Oh! With a best of 3 format because the game is so extreme in what it does. You can win or lose depending on your opening hand sometimes. That you definitely need the sliding pattern. And also, I feel like it would have been a great way to monetize a side deck, right? I don't know why they didn't add this option. Even if they want to push best of one for their competitive format, you could say, I don't really understand why they didn't add that. Next one being the updated cards pool, and subjectively this is the one that I am most furious about because we have OCG that is like 6 months ahead in terms of products in comparison to the TCG, and then we have Master Duel now here, and that just makes for so much confusion. I found when talking to friends, players from the TCG, what they like is usually 2 things: current format and nostalgia format. Nostalgia format being anything that is maybe like 2-3 years from now in the past. Players don't like playing in a format that is 6 months or 1 year old because it's basically the format that they're fed up with. Most players are not interested in that, and for good reason. Me neither. Difficult to get hyped for a game when the format that you play is the same that you've played 6 months ago in the TCG. And I can't even imagine what it's like for OCG players that play the format from a year ago, right? They have so many new cards now. And it's great that Konami announced new cards now for next week, right? They announced cards from Synchro Storm and Dawn of Majesty, which are 2 sets from the TCG. And they sort of combine cards from there, I guess. But if they don't release the entirety of Dawn of Majesty next week, I think it's looking pretty grim for an updated cards pool. Because what I was hoping for, and I think a lot of the TCG community was hoping for as well, was that as time progresses, if there's Master Duel and there's the TCG, we sort of catch on to it, right? We catch on to it, and then maybe, hopefully, that would be the dream, eventually catch up to the OCG, so TCG players would get the cards, access to them, even if it's just digitally. even earlier than in the TCG, right, when it's printed. Couple of reasons why I think that would have been amazing. First of all, I'm a casual Magic player. The reason I'm saying this is because I watch Twitch streamers that are streaming Magic sometimes, and I watch their YouTube content. And the things that are getting me hyped is when a new set is released and the content creator talks about the new cards, reviews the cards, the new cards that are getting released, talks about them, and promotes them for Konami, or in that case Wizards of the Coast. And that is something that I was really hopeful about when they first announced Master Duel, that finally we could have these connections, these collaborations between the content creators and Konami, and the community would benefit greatly from it because everyone gets incredibly hyped when a new set gets released. It's amazing. They don't do it. I don't know why, but now every time a new set gets released, the entire TCG community will go like, oh, I already know this. I already played with these cards 3-4 months ago. So the hype will die very quickly. It has already died in some sense. I'm not saying Master Duel is dying or anything, not at all, right? It's a completely new game and it does a lot of things right. But in that regard, I think it is completely failing and is sort of lacking in understanding or a conception, and maybe also that is something where I don't have the full picture, of course. I don't have Konami's numbers and everything, but where I feel like the TCG community is a consistent player base for Master Duel, right? Casual players will hop in, hop out and everything, and even if they make up like 80% of the player base, the TCG community is something that could be a very consistent player base for Master Duel. And I think they have to make a bigger effort to appeal to them as well. And the updated cards pool is one of the things that they have to be behind that and get going and start announcing things more quickly. I have a couple of more points that I definitely want to talk about. So the events have been great. The normal Rare Festival, the Exceed Festival, they were great. I really enjoyed the deck building process in those festivals. I talked about it in the videos as well. I've never built decks with such joy where there's no bias at all. There's no stable cards. There's nothing, right? You can just build a deck from scratch. And that was great. But that was it. There were no great rewards. After I finished playing the event, I was like, cool, I did that. That's it. Gem rewards are fine. They're fine. You get like 4,000 gems or whatever it was, maybe a bit less than that. It's okay, but do I get a reward where if I keep grinding and stuff, I get that one reward that is very, very difficult to obtain in this short amount of time, I can say to other players, well, I did that. Did you do that? That's some of the fun that comes with playing games. I just finished playing Elden Ring, and the entire game is based around you having this feeling of, I did that. That was something that I accomplished. But if everyone gets the same rewards, there's no real incentive to even build a deck and play the event, except for the 10,000 threshold, which after that, we don't even want to talk about the rewards after that. That was laughable. The Legacy Pack tickets, it's crazy to me, right? You don't even get something as easily made as a pad, for example. Just giving people more incentive to play the game. There is very little incentive to play the game at the moment, except for just enjoying nice looking Yu-Gi-Oh! Which brings me also to my next point, which is the ranked ladder and everything concerning that. We found in the data mines that the Diamond and King of Games, which should be two of the next sort of tiers, where they were data mined, and apparently they're somewhere in the code in the game, so they should be released at some point. But the game is now 2 months old and we haven't seen any progress in that matter. Being Platinum 1, it doesn't say anything anymore. At the beginning of the game, everyone was like, well, I'm Platinum 1, my deck has some sort of validation or my accomplishment in the ranked ladder, but I, as a player, don't feel rewarded getting into Platinum 1 and feeling like, damn, I did that, right? The same as in the events that we just talked about is the same in the ranked ladder for competitive players. Dueling Book, a website that is run by, I think, only one man, made that very well, right? They managed to do this for competitive players very well, where they have a ladder board and you can see who's first, second, third, and this is something we demanded from the competitive community right from the get-go. When this game launched, we need a ladder board. That is the one thing that will keep people playing, just because they're so... They want to have the status symbol of I am first, I am up there. Maybe that's good for you if you're a content creator. Maybe that's good for you if you're a competitive player, you want to get on a team. All of those things would not even be something that Konami would have to worry about. They would have to just implement the ladder board and everything else would sort of just get rolling from there and create hype that is not there because they don't do it. This is my last point, but I feel as if this is the most unlikely to happen, unfortunately, even though it would be one of the most important ones. Gems are way too expensive, and I can be transparent about this. I feel like when I heard Master Duel launched, I thought about spending maybe 1,000 euros or something, investing that more or less in the game and in the channel indirectly as well, and being able to build a lot of different decks to be able to show off on the channel. I maybe stopped around 100 euros because I realized, wow, you don't get anything for your money in this game. Like, and I even only spent the money on the sales, not even on the regular product. I compare this to Magic the Gathering Arena, where if a new set gets released, you maybe spend like 300-400 euros. I don't know if that's correct. You can correct me on that definitely if you're playing that game more frequently than I am. But from what I've seen and what I've heard, about 300-400 euros maybe on a new set, and you get all the cards and you can build all the decks. Of course, that is not something that was possible for Yu-Gi-Oh! Because you have 10,000 cards, so inherently there's a problem with that. But in general, I spent 100 euro even on the sales, and I only managed to finish one deck, and not even that one deck in the fullest capacity that I wanted to, which was a Thunder Dragon deck. I had to craft 3 Battery Man Solar for the video that I did, and I almost couldn't finish it. In general, I want to say, to finish up the Master Duel conversation, those are things that could all be easily fixed, and that's why I'm so furious about them. You can see me, I'm getting like very passionate about criticizing these things. The thing is, I feel like they could be fixed so easily, and it is just, once again, a problem of Konami just not seeing what the player base wants, and us not understanding why they're doing it the way they're doing it. Those are the reasons I haven't played Master Duel as much recently, so I started devoting my time more to the TCG again. I've had a lot of fun. I've played the Thunder Dragon Snow deck that I've showed off on the channel a couple of times at my locals every Sunday, and I've always had a great time, and the reason I've always had a great time was because no one was playing Scythe. If I play online Yu-Gi-Oh! At the moment on Dueling Book, ranked ladder, it's not a good time. Mostly I'm not having fun, I find myself rage quitting and all these things. The format is just so incredibly bad. I think this is the worst format since VFD probably was legal. Them not hitting Scythe was obviously a huge problem. Now you have to main deck cards that effectively out this strategy directly. Otherwise you just instantly lose whatever deck you play. You have a deck in the format that plays a hand trap in Dimension Shifter and is very unfair inherently and puts up a floodgate, which you also just immediately lose if you don't draw an inherent out like Gamma or Called by the Grave to the Dimension Shifter with any deck that is reliant on the graveyard, which is basically 90% of the format. And then you have all these decks in the format that basically only consist of different engines being put together, and this is something I have always criticized heavily with the Invoke Dogmatica Shaddoll deck or the Eldritch Dragoon Buster Dragon deck, where it's just like, you draw your opening hand, and if you draw 3 out of your 4 engines, you instantly win, but if you don't open those engines, you just only have a very subpar place. And I think that the decks that rely on having so many engines in their deck, or that only consist of so many different engines, they are the opposite of what I enjoy about Yu-Gi-Oh! So all of these 3 factors, Scythe being in the format, Dimension Shifter being a very good card in one of the best decks, and all of these decks that consist of random engines instead of a consistent deck core, make the TCG format incredibly unpleasant to play. A proof of that, in my opinion, is that when you look at the Dueling Book ladder now 2 months into the format, the highest ranked player is 1,700 rating. Usually at that point in the format, we are seeing 1,800, 900, 2,000 rating, usually in a good format. But it's always a proof of a bad format that is reliant on RNG, so on luck, when you have even the very best players not being able to get above that 1,800, 900, 2,000 threshold. Which last format, they did that with Sword Soul, which is an incredibly fair deck and super fun to play against. A rant over. I think that many of those issues, especially the ones in Master Duel, could be easily addressed with a community manager. Finally, give us someone that communicates with the community directly, tells them, look, this is our plan, this is why we do these things, have community tabs, have FAQs, have all these things available to players, and have a person that they can ask, why are you doing the things that you are doing the way you're doing them? It doesn't mean that I don't enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh! In general. I love the game. I will always love it. I think in the past years I have survived more of the catastrophic formats, and I've always enjoyed the game to some degree. I've never stopped playing it. Just expressing these thoughts makes me reflect on these things in a new way also. And I also want to open up the conversation. I think that's also a reason I'm doing the video. Being able to communicate with you guys about these issues in a more official way, more or less, by doing a video instead of a community tab is something that I'm looking forward to. That was it, with a bit of a different video today. Nonetheless, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a good day, and I will see you very soon. Bye.